welcome to the channel. My name is ZEC. Please like and subscribe to this video and be sure to hit that notification bell to not miss any of my future videos. And let's see if this video can get 15 likes.
Hi there, my name is ZEC.
Hello ZEC. Hello ZEC.
Hello Zeka. Hello Zeki.
Oh my goodness, look at my Bitcoin chart. Not to mention the ZCash chart. It's time to get into this video.
Okay, so we're looking at the dollar index here, the DXY. At first look, it doesn't look great. It looks like we're seeing the dollar start to lift off, and that's obviously not great for any kind of risk on assets like equities or Bitcoin. But realistically, I think we need to basically grow up and take a little bit of a zoom out on this, and we could look at firstly the weekly chart. Well, I mean, we're in a huge downtrend on the weekly. And why is that? That is only for one reason. It's because all they do is debase the currency with constant fiscal stimulus and constantly adding to the money supply. And if you create more dollars, then you will make the dollar worth less. I mean, worth less or worthless. That's trending down, right? We can see that, and has been since, well, what happened in March 2020? That was the coronavirus, and okay, yes, it does seem to be spiking here, and that has scared everyone this week or the last week or so, and this has maybe precipitated the Bitcoin push towards the lower to 30, but I think that was already in the pipeline, and I think that the trading range for Bitcoin, the accumulation range, was already decided. But I think that what happened is the Fed gave some guidance, and people got a little bit spooked. But is this actually going to carry on, as in to turn this downtrend into a reversal, into a recovery for the dollar? I'm not so sure about that. So what we could do is we could have a little look on slightly lower time frames, but still the relevant ones, and see what's happening. Let's see on the 12 hour. Well, on the 12 hour, we have had the signal sign has crossed over on the MACD, and we've got a sell sign, haven't we? That's what we have here, and we can see that we have begun to head down, begun to trend back down through this Bollinger range, and we have arrived at the 20 moving average and touched onto it here. That's on the 12 hour. Maybe even a little bit lower. We might have broken below. Have we broken below? Well, we have. So there we have, even broken below. Now, if we went onto the higher time frame, let's say the daily, we can see that the lower time frame, the 12 hour, which we know that the signal line had already crossed, and we had already started to trend down through this Bollinger range toward the moving average of the Bollinger. And look, this is starting to tip over, and we would have to sort of start imagining we may get a follow through on the daily. And if we get a follow through on the daily, then that might move up to the 2 daily and onward into the weekly, and so okay, we do have so I mean that's kind of what I think, is that it seems to me like we might go sideways for a while, quite likely. These bands have narrowed on the weekly. It looks like to me like this is a trading range for a while. But I don't think that this is some kind of there are not really any signs at the moment to show us that this is actually a reversal of this overall huge bear market for the dollar. So on that basis, and we could turn this around, couldn't we? Because if we flip this over and looked at it we'd see it on the Bitcoin chart and just in reverse. This one has been trending down steadily in a huge downtrend since the money printing presses went bananas in March last year. And if we go on to the Bitcoin chart, then we can see that in March we had a bit of a dump, and then it just went up and up and up and up. Okay, it started slow. We didn't go up on Bitcoin as quickly as we went down on the dollar. But it takes time for the trickle down economics. It takes time for that extra money that the Fed creates to find its way into the system. But it has found its way in. And what have those lucky individuals closest to the printing presses done with the money that's been pumped into the system? Well, they've bought stocks and they've bought Bitcoin, and maybe by this time, it had all filtered through. And so September, October 2020, lots of that fiscal stimulus, lots of that money had found its way into the hands of private capital, and up we went. Now, just like we had a nice little bounce in the overall downtrend on Dixie over there on Dixie. Should we have a look at it again? There we are. So, do we want to look at it on the 2 daily? So, we've had this nice little bounce, but it is generally a ferocious downtrend. Looks to me like, maybe we go sideways for a while. But with Bitcoin, that's the same thing. This is the 1 week. Let's look also on the 2 daily. With Bitcoin, it's the same chart but in reverse. So Bitcoin, we've been trending up, ferocious uptrend. Okay, we've had a bit of a jolt down to bring us back to earth, and we're going to trade sideways. Does this not look familiar to everybody? Dixie, down with all the money printing, and then sideways while everybody works out what's happening. And are they going to stop money printing? No, so it will carry on down. Bitcoin, up and up and up and up and up with all the money printing. And then, yes, a bit of a pullback and sideways, but are they going to be able to stop creating more? The answer is no, they can't. They literally cannot, because they actually have to continue to to create far more dollars than any of the. But let's talk about the Fed. They would like to be able to pay the interest on the debt that they owe, and in order to do that, due to the fact that the economy has been closed for X number of months, and due to the fact that they have greatly reduced tax receipts, due to the fact that they haven't been receiving any tax because nobody's actually been doing anything. So they are clearly going to continue to borrow more and more money, and they have to therefore create dollars out of thin air in order to be able to borrow more money. It's just the way that the system works, and so it's simply not the case that America is going to stop paying the interest on its debt. That isn't going to happen, and therefore it is there is only one possible way that that will not happen, and that is if they continue to borrow in excess of what they earn through taxation, tax receipts. They won't have the revenue to pay the interest unless they borrow even more. And when they borrow even more, they will debase their currency even more. And that will lead Dixie to, again, resume the downtrend. And it will almost certainly lead Bitcoin, after it's accumulated, to again resume the uptrend. And not just Bitcoin, also, certainly, the S&P. Yeah. Any kind of hard asset is going to do well in an environment where central banks have no choice but to continue to debase their own currencies, and that is the point. It isn't that I at this point don't even consider. I do have a fundamental opposition to the whole practice, to the whole way the system has been has turned out. But I think that's the point. It's turned out this way. I'm not sure, and certainly the people in charge now aren't really even to blame. There is a problem, and they can't stop. It's a bit like being a heroin addict. It's like you just can't stop. There's probably a point where you should have stopped and you could have stopped, but you're at the point where you just can't stop, and that's the problem. They're addicted to it. If they stop debasing their own currencies, then the government, if the central banks stop debasing their own currencies, the central banks will not be able. If the central banks stop debasing their own currencies, the governments will not be able to pay the interest on the outstanding debt, and they will default. And it won't just hurt rich people. It won't just hurt the people at the top. It will hurt everybody, because it's your pensions, it's everything. It's the whole world. So we don't really want everything to collapse. We don't want. I do think that it's true. We believe in capitalism, and maybe we believe that when a company has spent beyond its means and is bust, it should be allowed to go to the wall. But if we let the global financial institutions go to the wall, then we would be letting ourselves go to the wall, because, as I say, it's people's pensions, it's people's homes, it's everything. It's the health service. It's everything. So and probably, I'm not really sure anyone probably understands exactly how all pervasive the debt catastrophe, how all pervasive the debt is, and therefore how catastrophic to allow it to disintegrate by defaulting, by any big economy defaulting on its debt. It would be catastrophic. It's not that these people are idiots. It's not that the central bankers are idiots. It's that they have a Sophie's choice. That's like, what can they do if they do not carry on doing the wrong thing? Then something more awful will happen. And so I think it's terrible, and really the only thing we can do to protect ourselves is to know that they are doing what they can do, and what they're doing is it's the best that they can do, but it is doing more harm. It's putting more harm. It's putting a greater burden on the future central banker's shoulders, because he will be even more up shit's creek after this crop of central bankers have deferred dealing with the problem. And they must defer, because what is the solution? Who knows? Well, I do know what the solution is. The solution is probably Bitcoin, ZCash, some form of new hard asset at the base layer of a global financial system that is run on various blockchains, with a viable store of value protocol like Bitcoin or ZCash at the heart of it. That's the solution, and it will gradually. I hope that this will somehow enable us to find a way of replacing the debt with it's kind of almost like maybe the debt can be turned into, I don't know, it's some kind of, people are talking about a transfer of value a lot of the time on the internet, and I think maybe what it is not so much that there's a transfer of value taking place, but is that we, by inflating the value of the new financial system, that is, let's say, on a Bitcoin standard, for argument's sake, but as we gradually inflate the value of this system, we effectively inflate away the debt of the old system. And this is kind of what the global economy and the central bankers have been doing for years. They've been always inflating away the debt that they can't pay. But now that they're at zero interest rates, and they cannot, in the current system, create any real meaningful way of inflating away the debt, because there's no actual growth in the economy, and so they're kind of stuck because they can't borrow anymore, and they can't create the kind of inflation, the real inflation that they need to be able to actually manage the unmanageable debt that they have accrued over 100 or so years. And so I kind of feel like perhaps this whole new technology and this whole new financial system that's being created, maybe on a Bitcoin standard, is effectively a way of not, instead of sticking a pin in the debt, it's the other way around. We're kind of rather than sticking a pin in and draining away the debt, what we're doing is we're inflating the value of these assets, which are going to form the basis of the new system. And as those assets inflate, they will inflate at a greater, so much that the debt still laden and in the old system will become inconsequential in relation to the value accrued by the new system. And so I kind of feel like this is effectively the Plan B. And I wonder, I like the guy Plan B. He's called Plan B. I'm so much of a conspiracy theorist, but I do just wonder about who really created Bitcoin, and it just seems too wonderfully perfect that Satoshi Nakamoto is just, he just comes along at the time that the global financial system has imploded in 2008. Somebody just comes along with this cryptographic code and makes this fantastic new money, and I personally think that the NSA or some consortium of geniuses must have created it, because who else knew how to do that and had the technology and also has the vested interest in doing so? Well, I mean, the people in charge of the world, I would say, have a very, very, very deep interest in retaining their position of being in charge, and it's important to not have your financial system to collapse if you want to maintain your position, I would have thought. And so I kind of think it can't just be some nice little Japanese sounding gentleman, Satoshi, who's just made up this, some really clever mathematician. Yeah, okay. But like, realistically, I think it's got to be, well, if not the NSA, somebody else, it's the Americans, it's the Americans and the British and maybe and also, and they've been, this is right, it's got to be, hasn't it? And so what a great way to deal with this unpayable debt burden, this unsolvable problem, is to not deal with it, is to instead let's just kick the can down the road long enough. We'll create a new system which is actually better and appropriate for the digital world in which we now live, and we will just gradually bring it online over one or more generations, maybe over a period of 20 or 30 years, just as the internet was born. People won't really notice it happening, and as it happens, it will inflate in value to the tune of such a size that it will render the unpayable debt pile inconsequential to the newly capitalized system for the newly digitized capitalist world order. And yeah, I think that might be what it is going on. Well, who knows? We'll see. We'll see. That's my theory, and for the moment, I'm sticking with it. So, bit of a witter. Apologies if anybody did bother to listen to any of that, and I'm sure there's an NSA algorithm somewhere listening, and yeah, I'm sure they're always listening. So, if you're listening, I very much approve of your handiwork with Bitcoin. I also am fairly confident you had something to do with ZCash, and I like it, so hurrah, huzzah, well done, thank you. It's not often that we see eye to eye, but on this, I salute you. Cheers and ciao.